We've got three. You want to play three Metaphys Ragnaroks. With this effect, you can banish the top three cards of your deck, and for each Metaphys card that's banished, it gains 300 attack and 300 defense. So if you banish three, it gets up to 2400 attack. But his other effect is if he does battle damage to your opponent, you can automatically summon a Metaphys monster from your deck, which helps get out a lot of the bigger guys, which is very handy. So you want to run three of those. Next, you want to run three Metaphys Daedalus. His effect, all these guys get effects whenever they're special summoned. So off Ragnarok, if you do battle damage, you want to special summon Metaphys Daedalus from your deck. He banishes all special summon monsters from the field. So that wipes out a lot of these newer decks monsters off the field, especially ones that swarm the field that have a bunch of special summon monsters. He gets rid of them all, and he banishes them, so it's harder to recycle. Next, I run three Metaphys Metaphys. I don't find myself using its effect as often. What it does is it gets rid of face-down back row, and it banishes them. Most of the time, I just end up using its effect for the banish effect. If during the standby phase, you can special summon. You can add one Metaphys card from deck to hand. That's really what I use this card for. But if you get into the predicament where they've got a full back row and you've got the chance to special summon this, that's what you're going to want to do to get rid of all that back row. Next, we play three Metaphys Tyrants. What Tyrant does is if he gets special summoned off a Metaphys monster's effect, he can attack. If he attacks a monster, he can attack again. He's a 2900 beater. Also, so if Tyrant gets banished, you get to special summon one Metaphys monster from hand and then add him back into your deck during the standby phase. So it's a wonderful card. Really, really good. Next, I run two Metaphys Executioners. Really, this is just to give me extra Metaphys monsters in my deck, and for the occasional time that I'm having a hard time getting my Metaphys monsters banished and all of them are going to the graveyard, I can banish 5 Metaphys cards, and I can automatically summon him. He's a 3000 beater. Yeah, but really I just use him for extra Metaphys. Next, I also run one as Metaphys Armored Dragon. With one of the cards that I run in here, Metaphys Factor, it allows me just to normal summon him without tributing, so it works out because he's a 2800 beater. He's also a good Metaphys target. Next, I play two Fairy Tale Snow for those times that you got all your Metaphys cards in grave. She helps gets them banished, and she also puts one monster face down. So that's why I run two of her. Next is another key to this deck is Necrophase. I play two of her. It's on the ban list of 2, so I run the max number of copies. So for every monster that's banished in either player's graveyard, this card gains attack for that, which really helps out. You can get her up to 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 really high, really quickly, because you're constantly banishing cards with this deck. And it's a really good card to get your Metaphys monsters banished and then your opponent's monsters banished as well. So it works out really well in the deck. And then I run Triple Honest. A lot of these, other than Necrophase, are all lights, so it's a good hand trap to run with it. One Ghost Ogre for those times that you need to have a way to get over some things that you have a hard time getting over. And one Max C for the draw power. And next, we're going to do the spells. Now, I like to run 3 as Metaphys. I'm proxying one in because I haven't gotten the 3rd copy yet. What this does is you can banish one Metaphys monster, one Metaphys card from your hand, and draw 1 card. And for every Metaphys monster, once per turn, if a Metaphys monster is banished, on your turn, your opponents lose 500 attack, 500 defense. And if it's banished on your opponent's turn, all monsters they control are put face down. So it's a really good card to have, and it's a continuous spell. And it's searchable off of Metaphys. So, really good card to have there. Next, I run 3 Metaphys Factor. What Factor does is it keeps your opponent from negating monster effects. So like when Ragnarok's effect goes off to banish 3, they can't negate it because of Metaphys factor. Also, you can normal summon Metaphys monsters without tributing, but banish them during the end phase. So those times that you don't have a card that you can play, it allows you to normal summon without tributing to where you can do a little bit of damage and get rid of some cards. Next, I run 2 gold sarcophaguses. I really just use this to banish Necrophase to where I can also get it back and also banish my cards and my opponent's cards. It's a really good card. I would run it at 3, but I tend to brick whenever I get 3, so I've just run it at 2. I run 1 Scapegoat. Scapegoat's just a free firewall. That's what I like to use this for. I run Inferno Tempest. Some people might not. Sometimes it's good for those predicaments where it's just like you don't have your field full yet, and your opponent's got some 3,000 beater on the field. It banishes all cards from all monsters from yours and your opponent's deck and graveyard. So with this deck, that'll help it out a lot because a lot of their effects go off whenever they're banished and during the next standby phase. So you won't really have to worry about decking out at that point because a lot of them will be recycled back in. So that's why I like to run Inferno Tempest. And I haven't actually found a copy of this yet, but I need to get one, so I'm proxying it. It's Dimensional Fissure. What this does is it banishes all monsters sent to graveyard or banished instead, which really is what's going to help this deck out a lot. Next, going over the traps, I run Macrocosmos. Macrocosmos, what that does is it banishes all cards rather than just monsters. But again, it just like Dimensional Fissure, it helps get those Metaphys monsters' effects off. Then I run 3 Metaphys Dimensions. What Metaphys Dimension does is, if your opponent special summons, you can special summon 1 Metaphys monster from that was banished. So that helps you recycle a little bit. But also, if a Metaphys monster is banished, you can banish 1 card your opponent controls, which really comes out well because with Ragnarok's effect, you're going to banish 3 cards right there, and if one of them are Metaphys card, you automatically get to banish something of your opponent's. So it's really, really good card. I like to try to search this out as quickly as possible. Next, I run 2 Waterfall of Dragon Souls. All the Metaphys monsters are all worms, so what this does is allows you to add 1 worm to hand. So if I'm starting out and I don't have any Metaphys Ragnaroks, I'll immediately use this to try to get a Ragnarok to hand. And last but not least, I play 1 Blind Obliteration. A lot of the Metaphys cards are really high in levels, so chances of rolling to destroy them are kind of high, but if you've got Metaphys Dimensional Fissure or Metaphys Dimension or any Macrocosmos, it's not going to matter. They're going to get banished and get resummoned really quickly anyway. So I like to run this card just to help get me over some hard plays. Moving on to the extra deck, I play number 39 and 39S. Really, this is just sometimes right off the bat, if I've got 2 Ragnaroks, this is typically something that I would go into just to negate attacks. Sometimes I use Utopia 39S, but not always. Then I play Galaxy Eyes Cypher and Galaxy Eyes Full Armored Photon Dragon. So if you get 2 Tyrants out, this is a great card to go into because you'll just overlay the 2 Tyrants into Cypher and then also into Full Armored Photon. So it's a really good way to get this guy out to help yourself. I also like to play number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk. What that does is it just allows you to get a bunch of tokens on your field, so you can get into either some overlays or some links, but it's really handy, so that's why I play that one. Dark Rebellion is another one that I like to use because it's overlay for two level 4s. It's just a great, you can remove a unit to make your opponent's monster lose half attack and it gains it. So it's a really good card to get into to, overpower your opponent a little bit. Next, I like to play Stardust Dragon. There is Ragnarok. He is a tuner. and use, let's say, Necroface and Metaphys Ragnarok or Snow, you can get into Stardust pretty easily. I like to use that just to kind of help myself sometimes for those sticky situations. And next, I play a Firewall. I use Firewall. All right, my name's Shay, and this was my Metaphys deck profile.